After listening to this part, everybody, I want you please to write a newspaper article about something that you've done while we've been in this strange lockdown. Okay, chapter 14, here we go. The Chronicle. Second Wildboy murder, details emerge. New particulars have came to light with regard to the gross and violent murder of Dr. Charles Ignatius Griffin, which has gripped the entire city since its perpetration 3 days ago. The murder of Dr. Griffin, combined with that of circus performer Professor Henry Wollstonecraft, has thrown the city into a state of panic the like of which has never been witnessed. The particulars of the crime are as follows. On the evening of Wednesday the 27th of October, Dr. Griffin was alone at the house which was both his home and his medical college on Tooley Street in the borough of Southwark, when sometime around 11 o'clock, several students who lodged at nearby premises claimed to have heard a scream from inside the building. The gentlemen rushed to the house, but found no evidence of a break-in. All the doctors were locked and bolted from the inside, and there was no sign that any of the windows had been forced. At that moment, another scream was heard, and the gentlemen immediately forced the door upon its hinges. No further sounds were heard, but when the gentlemen ventured to the third floor of the house, the full wickedness of the crime was revealed. Dr. Griffin was discovered laid upon a table in the classroom, having been murdered in a most shocking manner. Upon closer examination, the identity of his assassins was discovered written upon a wall in the doctor's blood. All of the gentlemen present are in agreement that the words written were as follows: Wildboy and Clarissa done it. The alarm was raised, but the gentlemen were unable to locate the miscreants anywhere on the premises, and neither were the police able to establish the means by which the killers had gained entry into the house, which was locked from within. There is little doubt, however, that the assassins were the creature, Wildboy, and his partner, Clarissa Everett, who continued to elude capture and pervert justice in a most hideous manner. The concern of Londoners could not be greater had the devil himself committed these crimes. Police released the following description of Wildboy. Around 4 feet 5 inches tall, slim build, covered entirely in thick brown hair, red military jacket, bad trousers, no boots. Also known as the Wild Boy of London and the Beast of Bermondsey. Clarissa Everett is described thus: red hair, red freckles, sequined red and gold circus attire, also known as the Fairground Fiend. The police have stressed that no pains will be spared to bring these killers to swift and public justice. The paper trembled in Wildboy's hands. He read it again, barely able to believe what it said. It was just like at the fair. He'd been set up, his name written at another murder scene, but he didn't even know this new victim. Anger boiled through him. Just because he was a freak, everyone believed that he was guilty. Unable to control himself, he grabbed one of the soup bowls and hurled it against the wall of the underground chamber. He leaned over the table, swearing and pulling the hair on his face. Finish feeling sorry for yourself, Clarissa said. No, I ain't, Wildboy spat. Leave me alone, will ya? I will not. My name's at that house and all, you know, and you're going to help me get out of this. Yeah? And how am I going to do that? We're going to find clues to prove we're innocent. Sir Oswald collected the remaining bowls. Listen to her, Master Wild. She speaks sense. It was his idea, really, Clarissa said, nodding at Sir Oswald, and she prodded Wildboy's arm. That's your skill, ain't it? Seeing things. I ain't got a skill. Master Wild, Sir Oswald said, it is poor form to lie to a lady. Perhaps, were you not so busy being angry, you might use your abilities to solve this mystery. Indeed, were you and Miss Everett to put aside your differences, I believe that you would make a formidable duo. Why, you even look like partners in crime. He gestured to their clothes, Wildboy's long crimson tunic with its gold tassels, and the red and gold sequin dress under Clarissa's coat. A detective and an acrobat, he said. Yes, a quite formidable duo. I can pick locks and all, Clarissa added. Oh, good for you, Wildboy muttered. He knew it was a silly thing to say. The truth was, he felt embarrassed. He'd always prided himself on being a survivor, but so far all he'd done was shouted at Clarissa. At least she wanted to do something about this, but he knew her plan wouldn't work. "Ain't no point trying to prove our innocence," he said. "Why ever not?" Sir Oswald said. "Because no one will listen. See this?" He threw the news sheet across the table. "The Wild Boar of London, a monster with a price on my head. All anyone will care about is the reward. They don't want to hear about our innocence." "Great," Clarissa said. "So you just want to sit here and get caught. We ain't friends, but I thought you were tough at least." "I ain't saying we do nothing." "Then what are you saying, Master Wild?" Sir Oswald asked. Wild Boy thought for another moment, wondering if his plan was right. They couldn't hide down here forever, even with Sir Oswald's help. The bounty hunted would flush the tunnels, drown them in darkness. At best, they'd get caught and only have their word to give the police. "We go after the killer. We find out who he is and we catch him." Sir Oswald looked alarmed. "Master Wild, surely it would be more sensible to investigate those clues that you know. Miss Everett said the killer was after a machine of Professor Wollstonecraft's, and she spoke of an individual with a golden eye. Perhaps you could pursue one of those leads, or—" "No," Clarissa interrupted. "I like his plan. We owe the killer anyhow. Revenge, right?" She looked at Wild Boy, and it was as if her eyes lit that fire again inside him. They may not have been friends, but they were both fairgrounders and they had a score to settle. "Revenge," he agreed. "Then we need to make a list," Clarissa decided. "Things we know about the killer. Got any paper?" Wild Boy dug in his pocket, brought out the warning letter from the Greenwich Fair. He and Clarissa looked at it for a moment, wishing they'd never seen the thing. But it was too late now. "Right on the back," he said. Clarissa dipped one of her lockpicks in the muck on the wall and used it as a quill to compose her list. "First," she said, "you thought the hooded man walked funny." "Yeah, but he's fast and strong and all." "Master Wild," Sir Oswald said, "did you recognise the killer's voice?" "No, it was muffled by his mask, but you knew the professor. Called him Henry. Stole his ring too." Clarissa scribbled that on her list. "And there were cane marks around the professor's body, right?" "I don't know," Wild Boy replied. "They look like cane marks." "Anything else, Master Wild?" Wild Boy cast his mind back to the fair. The images were frozen in his memory. He closed his eyes and studied the clues. "The killer's cloak," he said. "There were creases in the leather. That means he screws it up to store. But he doesn't fold it, so he must take it off in a rush and hide it. And the hood had marks from where it had brushed a low ceiling. There were lots of them, so he brushes that ceiling often. Could be where he lives. A low roof place, small and cheap." Clarissa looked at Wild Boy, astonished by his recall. Then she shrugged, made another note on her list and shoved it in her pocket. "Well then, you do the clues and I'll think about how we catch him." Sir Oswald clapped his hands. "I suggest you begin at the house of the second victim, Dr. Charles Ignatius Griffin. Perhaps you will find a clue there to track down the killer." Clarissa sprung up. "Let's go." "I fear it won't be that easy, Miss Everett," Sir Oswald warned. "The doctor was killed at his college in Southwark. That is over a mile away, and half of the city is after you." A chill ran through Wild Boy that had nothing to do with the cold. Southwark. He knew that place. That was where his old workhouse was, a grim brick building that overlooked the Thames. He'd sworn he'd never go back there, only now he had no choice. "The sewers," he said. "We can go underground until we get near the river, then we'll be close." "It's a damned risky go," Sir Oswald said, "but I smell adventure. I shall travel overground and scout for danger. We shall begin at first light." Wild Boy had no idea when first light was. Down here everything was black or brown. He pulled his coat around him and curled up beside the fire as the dying embers pulsed orange and red in the draught. But he couldn't sleep. Spying on people at the fair was one thing, but this was something bigger and much more dangerous. Scared as he was, though, he was excited too. The details in the newspaper report about the locked house intrigued him. It was that same feeling that had led him to Professor Wollstonecraft's caravan at the fair. a puzzle waiting to be solved. Only, could he really solve it? He had to. Because if he couldn't, he and Clarissa were as good as dead. Okay, so remember, just a short newspaper article like the one I read at the beginning from the Chronicle about something that you've done during this lockdown.